Hi, folks. Welcome. I I assume most of you are joining us from the premiere that just finished. It's one of the shorter stories, very concise, very powerful, and grateful for her to have shared her story with us. I don't know if Patty is with us or not. Are you in the group? So to start with, before we get into all the open discussion, I wanted to take a minute to talk about something specific, and I'm going to try to do this at the beginning of all of the live events, assuming I can always think of something specific to address. So this first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was about recognizing the signs of an overdose, because that's important. So so this is something that could literally save a life. Recognizing the signs of an opioid overdose. We are in the middle of an opioid crisis. Every day, people in our community, our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones are dying from overdoses. And many of these deaths are preventable, but only if you know what to look for. So let's talk about the signs of an overdose. First, the person may become unresponsive. You might call their name, shake them, or try to wake them up, and they don't respond. If someone is unconscious, not reacting, that's a major red flag. Second, watch their breathing. Opioids slow down the respiratory system, and an overdose, breathing can become very slow, irregular, or stop completely. You might notice gasping, a snoring sound, or no breath at all. If their lips or fingertips are turning blue or purple, it means they're not getting enough oxygen. Third, look at their skin tone. They might be pale, clammy, or cold to the touch. Their pupils may be very small. Pinpoint pupils are a classic sign of opioid use. Sometimes people think they're just sleeping, but an overdose looks different. If they can't be woken up, they're not breathing properly, they're turning blue, it's not sleep, it's an emergency. If you ever suspect an opioid overdose, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. If you have access to naloxone, commonly referred to as Narcan, use it. It can reverse the effects of an overdose and save a life. And remember, you can't hurt someone by giving them naloxone if they don't need it. It has no effect. But doing nothing could cost that person their life. So be aware of the signs. Unresponsive, slow or stopped breathing, pale or blue skin, pinpoint pupils. Being aware of these signs can make all the difference. So, all right, so I've had my little say. It's so important to be attentive to those things and to have naloxone around. It's available free lots of places. At any kind of opioid awareness event, there's usually organizations giving it away for free. At any kind of harm reduction center, they will typically have a way to get naloxone for free. Maybe Narcan, maybe some other brand. It doesn't matter. They all work the same. So I appreciate you folks being here. let's talk. So, what did you guys think of the premiere that just finished? That one was from Phoenix, from Arizona. You guys are here, right? I see 20 people. So I'm thinking there's people here. Where's some of the usual suspects at? Whereas I know Deidre is here, and don't know who else. So what we have coming up in 2 weeks is we're going to be shooting stories in Wichita, Kansas, and then Denver, Colorado. We're also going to be having a lunch in Oklahoma City at Toby Keith's place. So we have some exciting stuff coming up. I am wondering if there's any kind of connection issue. Everything working okay, folks? I see people, but I'm not seeing the chat. I'm not seeing any comments. I'm not seeing something from Brad giving me grief or telling me that he's on the 5-year plan. Hello, Joan. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for saying something. Did you manage to catch the premiere of this this latest story? I hope so. I really like the thing that stood out to me about this storyteller is how she I don't know how to say it other than to say that she got wonderfully angry. And I thought that was pretty powerful. So that was cool. And it's a good story. The next story that we're going to publish, I believe, as the schedule looks right now, it's going to be day after tomorrow. We tend to do these every other day. This next one is going to be about a fentanyl poisoning or overdose that happened in 2003. Over 20 years ago. And it's still fresh for the storyteller. And always will be. That is where we are at. That's where you stay in your grief. So, can you guys give me some input about what stands out to you in terms of common threads that you hear about frequently regarding regarding what happens in many of these stories? What are some of the common threads that strike you? So that's an awkward pause, isn't it? I'm just checking in with you folks because I'm not seeing any kind of chat happening here. I'm seeing very little dialogue. It's not going the way these usually go, for sure. I'm not hearing from anybody. Is there? I also had some issues with playback during the premiere. Uh, you know, 15 minutes ago or so. For a while, it wouldn't start, and so I don't know if there's some sort of data issue. It says our data rate is very high. We're in a good place. Hello, Black Rain. It is difficult to discern the common thread. Yeah, yeah. See, that's that. It's the common thread question is something that people ask me a lot. What's the common thread? What's the thing that they have in common? And it's hard to figure out how there might be. Well, look who's here. Hammer's here. Good to see you, Hammer. So the common thread. There's a common thread in quite a few that has to do with disappointing results from law enforcement. One thing that stands out to me about that is that the disappointment may be a little bit displaced. That yeah, the disappointment is with what law enforcement does, or the disinterest that law enforcement seems to demonstrate in terms of investigating. But the driving force behind that could be the district attorney. The problem is that district attorneys will sometimes just refuse to prosecute a case, or will be quick to reject a case because they don't feel confident that it's winnable. To me, being winnable doesn't always matter. Even if it isn't winnable, it creates awareness. It creates a paper trail. But some of the criticism of law enforcement could be better placed at the district attorney level. Because for law enforcement, they feel like there's little reason for them to do much work on something if once it gets to the district attorney's office, it's just going to be rejected. And we hear about that a lot from law enforcement. So Black Rain says there are many factors, but I do know we live in a society inundated with depression and anxiety. It almost seems like there's a culture or an element of our culture that makes depression and anxiety something that you should have. Like people hear about it more and more and decide, well, maybe I have that too. Or I should have depression. That makes me sad. Oh, now I've got depression because I'm sad about not that there's this process that happens. That people. Hello, Jody. Thank you for being here. I think there's this process that sometimes happens that people start thinking they need a mental health issue diagnosis because they hear about them more and more. Much the way after the movie The Exorcist came out, there was this giant spike in the number of people who believed themselves to be possessed. After Jaws came out, there was a giant spike in the number of shark sightings. That there's just this behavioral thing. It's very weird. So Black Rain also says there's been scientific data that indicates the dangers of social media and how our young in particular are so easily swayed by visual and audio stimuli. Yeah, there is a definite villain in social media, except of course this channel. But yeah, there is this social media is also social pressure. That there's this obligation to post and to present this certain image in your posts. That looking good in a post is better than feeling good, better than being good, better than being mentally healthy. It's better just to look. Yeah. Drugs have always been interwoven in the fibers of society, but my goodness, every rapper and most of these young influencers glorify debauchery. False expectations of so-called perfection, meaning on social media. Yeah, I think for sure it does that. So this glorifying debauchery, I think it's something that I've noticed over the years. There is every generation has to kind of raise the bar. There was a time when in the 50s, just wearing blue jeans was rebellious. And eventually that got to be no big deal, so you had to raise the bar. And then it was long hair and experimenting with drugs and stuff like that. And then nobody cared about long hair. And then the next, yeah, I know what you mean by saying they lowered the bar. Each step was just wanting to have that element of rebellion. So, you know, if we as the more mature generation of the period would have hung on to criticizing long hair, maybe it would have stayed there. That now self-destructive behavior just gets more and more extreme. The evolution from different clothing styles, things that don't even fit. I get the idea of wanting to demonstrate some sort of creativity, but it's not really being rebellious if you're doing what everybody else is doing. Right? How is that? It's like, I'm a rebel just like everybody else. Just like all my friends. And now most of these young people are looking for means of escapism. Maybe, certainly some. Holy cow, I have a mosquito bite, I think. Sorry, probably no reason to share that. So, a means of escapism. And I think probably there's also that just that need to there's the need to fit in and the need to escape and the need to feel independent. And if you do something that seems daring, that satisfies that desire to demonstrate some independence. So that's something. The need to be independent, to feel independent. It's a lazy way to feel independent. It's not doing something substantial. It's not. I don't know. It's a, it. It's a cheap way to look daring. On the one hand, it's daring because it's dangerous to take a pill. But holy cow, it's also super easy. It's crazy easy. It's lazy easy. Boy, but I have. Okay, Jody, I'm right. Jody, right? 72. I was young hen when I saw The Exorcist. And did it it's one of those great movies that stays in your head. The movie Psycho made people made tons of people afraid of taking a shower. Oh, jeez, Angela, really? Who's Jody? Jody's jo- Jody has a real long F for it. Seriously, it's Angela. All right, so answer to Jody. Okay, Angela, I'll get it straight now because I think I've done the Jody thing a couple of times, and sorry. Oh, you tell me. Oh, you're killing me now. Oh my, yeah, this is yeah. Okay. Canine is here. Good deal. Hello, everyone. Busy day. Can't stay, but wanted to extend my condolences to Bryson's family. Fentanyl is evil. Love you guys. Thank you, Canine, for joining us. Appreciate you stopping by. We will have our next story Tuesday. Next story, it looks like our next story will be our next story. Well, I believe it's also from Arizona, like this one was. And this story, mate, no, it's from Florida. Sorry. This story is from Florida, and it is it's a story about losing a loved one to fentanyl in 2003, over 20 years ago. So, and it's still fresh. It's kind of it's a complex story. Good deal. Angela will be here as well. Maybe she'll bring Jody, whoever that is now. I'm just so confused. So, but it'll be fine. I appreciate all you guys being here with us and finally chiming in. I know it seemed like we got off to a really slow start, and uh, uh, glad to be hearing from you guys. I don't see Brad or Carla. Hope they join us. Always nice to see them here. And Angel, remember Angel. So, you guys have questions for me? I always got to ask. Do you guys have questions for me? Angela's going to bring a pal along. Are you? That'd be cool. We can talk. So, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be on the road. And while I'm on the road, I won't be able to do this. I certainly won't be able to do this the same way I'm doing it now. Won't have this nice, blurry background of cool awards and stuff. But do I go fishing? Not often. Not in quite a while. Anyway, so in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be driving from Houston to Oklahoma, and then Kansas, and then Denver. I fish a lot. Local lake. Most of my videos are of the lake near me up north. Okay, Angela. And where are you? Are you in Canada? Am I remembering that? I'm probably getting that wrong too. There are so many names. I do my oh yeah, Canada. I knew it. Hey, how about that? I got that part right. So there's a lot of beautiful areas in Canada. In my head, I am assuming that this lake must be like rugged wilderness. Must be rugged wilderness beautiful. Seems like it just would have to be, because it's Canada, and just that's the kind of visuals that it brings to mind. Black Rain's question: what do you think can be done to help stop the influx of drug usage? The thing is, the only way to achieve any kind of substantial, lasting success is to address the demand. The demand is the heart of the matter. If it wasn't for the demand, if there wasn't a market for illicit drugs, suppliers would have no reason to sell illicit drugs because no one was buying them. And so as long as we continue to focus on supply and ignore doing something about demand, it's going to continue to be a problem. Supply finds a way if there's a demand to profit from. And that's true with any business. And so when I say do something about demand, I don't mean start arresting users. I mean do something to offer a more appealing alternative. Find a way to make the alternative more attractive. And the alternative could be going to a gym. Now, that's a little optimistic, I realize, for a lot of people, but it could be something like that. It could be finding some sort of high reward to doing something that is a healthy alternative rather than they made that evident back during the Iran-Contra area. Iran-Contra era. I have read before. I went to public schools, but I've read before, and I know how. Yes, the Iran-Contra era, and using it as a way to to fund weapons. I remember that. I get reminded of it fairly often. So, do I think having more public access to naloxone is part of the problem or a solution? I think it's a doesn't matter thing. That I think access to naloxone. Look, I got it right here. Access to naloxone is like having access to a fire extinguisher. It's just for the emergency. And so I don't think that naloxone contributes either way in any substantial way. It just saves lives. That's the impression I get. And you know, it's I have heard some cases where there are users out there who find that the that they say that being revived is the ultimate trip, ultimate high. But it isn't. There's a thing about Narcan, naloxone, is when you administer naloxone to someone who's experiencing an overdose, typically, if it revives them, and it doesn't always work, it can be too late. If maybe after 1 dose or 2 doses or 5 doses or whatever, it revives them, when they wake up, when they come to, there's a really good chance they're going to be in a bad mood. And that's something that people don't address very often, because when they come to, they're also immediately in withdrawal. If they are an addict, if they're a regular, frequent user, then naloxone will put them into withdrawal. And when they're in withdrawal, unexpectedly especially, they're going to be pissed off. So Narcan is given out free here in Alberta, as it should be, but it is naloxone. You know, you had to bring up, you had to. So I like showing you guys this graphic. You know, I like showing you this graphic about naloxone and how all of these say naloxone. Only one says Narcan, and they are all equally effective. In fact, Kloxxado is an 8 milligram dose as compared to all of the others, which are 4 milligram doses. But there is no difference between the Walgreens brand of naloxone in the nasal spray and Narcan nasal spray. There's no difference with any of these in terms of effectiveness. And so I always like to remind you folks about that. So let me see where I'm at here. Angela says, yeah, I've heard that as well. I'm not sure which that you're referring to. We have to watch out for one another. Absolutely, Angela, we do. And I think in large part we do that. I think we do look out for one another more than we even give ourselves credit for. You know, there is there's all kinds of life-saving efforts going on all over. There are tons of fentanyl awareness organizations made by, created by families that have lost someone. They've already experienced their loss. They're doing that they're doing that for others. They're doing that to turn some sort of to pull some sort of value out of this terrible, tragic loss that they endured. So let me catch up. Angela, with brain damage. Yes, yes, the opioids suppress breathing. So as less and less oxygen gets into the victim's body, brain damage is going to begin to occur. Hypoxia. Black Rain says, and sometimes ineffective depending on the drug that was ingested. That's absolutely correct. This works on opioids only. So some of these other synthetic drugs that are out there, this has no effect. And some of the poly drugs, the mixes, it's going to only have a limited effect. Uses. Under uses, it says to revive someone during an overdose from many prescription pain medications or street drugs such as heroin. It does not mention fentanyl specifically. It also says designed to rapidly reverse the effects of a life-threatening opioid emergency. And the key word there is opioid. Fentanyl is an opioid. It's a synthetic opioid created in a lab, but it's still an opioid. Let me catch up. Brenda says, sorry I'm late. Earlier today, I learned of a pregnant teenager living in her car with 2 boxer puppies. I just back from getting her settled in a Christian home for young mothers. Wow, Brenda, how awesome is that? Like, I'm just going, a lot. All right. What's up with that? So, what an awesome thing to do, Brenda, to make the time for that. We have a new friend that we're helping out who has a newborn baby, and kind of your story kind of makes me think of that a little bit. So good job. That's I bet there is this awesome reward to having done that. I bet. So try to always walk in pairs. That's a thing for users. Users should never use alone. That's a big one. Never use alone. Oh, one more time. Never use alone. Now you say it at home. Never use alone. That's such a big deal. So Black Rain says most are self-absorbed lovers of things and self over their fellow man. Yeah, you certainly see that. I don't know if there's a way to say and be sure you're accurate that most. Maybe. Maybe not. I hope not. Now, with the kind of projects that we're working on here at Texas Pictures, the kind of projects that we're working on kind of mandate that the people we work with are people who want to help others. when we do a story about a fentanyl poisoning, or we do a story about human trafficking or addiction recovery, the reason the people we're talking to are talking to us is because they want to help others. So most of the people that we interact with are not like that. They are not absorbed, and not just lovers of things. And it's been my experience, and that this is what I have to go on. It's been my experience that this is true even for people in public office. And I say people in public office. I've talked to a couple of United States senators, and I have talked to a state representative in Kansas, and so he just genuinely wants to help people, and he has a particular passion for PTSD among veterans. That we interviewed him. He was a champion for the Good Samaritan law in Kansas, and there's a story with him in the fentanyl series, and he, when I talked to him, not an interview, just we were at a rally, and I was just talking to him because someone else had told me about his interest in PTSD among veterans, and doing something to help there. And I was talking to him, and I brought that up. And this state representative, right there on the lawn of the Capitol building, he started talking about it and started to cry. I just met him earlier that day. The senators that I've met are genuinely engaged in the topic. And it's always been centered around fentanyl. I met the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, and I met him at a fentanyl awareness event that his office organized. And there was a couple of hundred people in the audience, and I was there. It was, some of our stories were playing on the screens in the background behind the table of experts that were right up front. So, well, that was an oddly cool kind of, didn't really expect it thing. And so I watched the governor during that event, and he was not just pandering to the cameras and to the topic to get support or to humor someone. He was truly engaged. And it struck me how engaged he was. He was making notes when there was no there would have been no other reason to make the notes other than that he was trying to follow a line of thought that would help him. It impressed me a lot. Anyway, so let me catch up. That's why I really like this channel. I guess you're talking about the whole want to help people thing. YouTube brought every wolf just trying to make money. I don't, Black Rain, maybe you should explain that a little bit more. YouTube brought every wolf just trying to make money. I want to say I appreciate you all. It's helped me with my healing over my son in March. Thank you sincerely. My only voice, March. This March, you lost your son. I'm 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 so sorry to hear that. There are there are resources out there for help. Our channel our channel's nothing compared to the other resources for help that are out there. That I'm just kind of assuming that you lost your son to an overdose, because that's mostly what we talk about here. But it doesn't even matter. But there are tons of groups. There's groups on Facebook and on other social media sites that are all about parents who have gone through what you're going through and are still going through it. There's tons of resources like that. It's great to connect with them. On our channel, there's 2 stories that are presented by a counselor who's a friend of mine. Her name is Heather Lambert, and she is brilliant. And she talks about one of the videos with her is called Life After Loss, and it's maybe 12, 15 minutes long. And the other one is called Grief Feels Like Crazy. And it's a little shorter. But she just talks about those things that they're good things to say out loud, good things for someone to say out loud and for people in your circumstance to hear. And so we also have we have a private Facebook group that you're welcome to be a part of that is for Texas Picture Storytellers. If you feel like you might one day want to share your story. The value of the group isn't really about sharing your story. It's about storytellers, people who you have seen on our channel. Virtually all of the storytellers on our channel are in the group. And there's also a couple of hundred people who want to share their story at some point and just haven't had the chance or don't feel like they're ready to yet. And so it's a great place where people come together. They support each other. It's also where we announce all of our events, all of our storytelling events. It's where we announce first so that the people in the group get first crack at signing up and registering to share their story. So let me catch up. My only bless you. We are always here for you. I'm sorry for your loss. Sorry you lost your son. I will pray for you. Have peace and joy while your angel son watches over you. What a great way to put that, Brenda. Black Rain, and people have to realize that this is a bipartisan issue. It is a national concern. That was a comment I made when you were discussing helping others. Okay. I'm with you now. Got to get a Texas Picture sticker, right? Anyway, people have to realize that this is a bipartisan issue. Yeah. Here's the thing about that. This fentanyl crisis began to be a thing in 2013. That's when it first started showing up in any kind of substantial way on the scene. 2013. And since then, I don't know if I have that graphic or not. No. How could I not? Hmm. So since then, it has climbed dramatically and continuously, regardless of what party is in power, what party is in the White House, regardless of border policy. It just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. The crisis spans 4 administrations and includes both parties. That so yeah, it definitely needs to be a bipartisan concern. There also needs to be some sort of bipartisan spanking going on. You know, some sort of scolding for both parties for not doing as much as they could have. Let me see if I can find. I don't see it. Okay, fine. All right, let me catch up. So yeah, bipartisan and needs to be bipartisan scolding of the people in power. That's my feeling. Is that there is plenty of missed opportunity on both sides. Plenty. I mean, it would be. Hmm. Okay, now I'm really wanting to show you guys that graphic, and so just give me a second here, and we'll see if I can find it. What is that sound? It is a. Okay. This is where it ought to be. Yeah, okay, I found one. All right, here we go. This will do. There we are. There it is. All right, how simple is that? You can look at the year and you can see how every step of the way the issue grew bigger and bigger and bigger, regardless of who is in office, regardless of border policy, regardless of anything. Nobody did anything that worked. So there you go. So let me try to catch up here a little bit. My only seriously talk to people. That's all you can do. Talk to people. Go at your own pace. Take all the time you need and talk to people. You are welcome to email me. You're welcome to message me on Facebook. You're welcome to call me. Our phone number is on our website. Whatever works for you. However we can help you, we're glad to do it. Let me catch up. Black Rain, and people have to realize this is by. I did that, didn't I? That was a comment. Okay. Joan is sending love. Angela gives a happy face. Brenda says, Joan, hey girl, how are you doing today? And there's a flower. Ivy League flight nurse. Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. Oh, gosh. I am behind. Goodness. Where am I at? Brenda, I am well. Congrats on day 269. That is no small feat. Absolutely. Black Rain, you are so right. Brenda says, Black Rain, you are so right because fentanyl doesn't care if you are rich or poor, boy or girl, black or purple, Christian or atheist, young or old, sick or healthy, saint or sinner, redneck or Yankee. Redneck or Yankee. Ivy Leaf flight nurse says, I found that most of my frustrations is with big pharma. That's where I place most of the blame. And that's reasonable, I believe. Angela says, thank you. Thank you. Each morning I ask God to put me where he can best use me to give me the strength to do whatever he needs me to do. The Idle Morris, welcome back again. Hello. I see the wavy hand thing. That's groovy. I appreciate you joining us. Some people think I drink too much coffee. I don't know. Do I seem high strung? I don't think so. I see we have 25 people in the room right now, and we have 11 likes. It still says 11. Okay, fine. Ivy League flight nurse. Here's Big Pharma. Big Pharma could be part of the solution. And the reason Big Pharma could be part of the solution is because not only do they spend money on research to find different drugs, they spend a lot of money on research on marketing. And they learn what works to manipulate consumers' behavior in terms of what kind of drugs they want, how they create the demand. They could just as easily create the demand for healthy alternatives to drugs. It's within their skill set. It's within the skill set that they use to make money. The Idle Morris, also our medical model needs work. I'll ask my ICU docs for Suboxone or Methadone for my patients. They tell me that addict patient is admitted for a foot infection. The ICU is terrible for that. Thank you, Idle. Thank you for hitting the like button. Brenda says Big Pharma spends the most money on high-priced lawyers to keep them from paying for this addiction plague that they started. Yeah, they spend a lot of money on that, as they should. They absolutely could be. The financial resources are there. Bingo. That's it. Right there. They have the resources. They created the problem. They could fix it. They could be they could be heroes. Who cares? If the price of stopping this and saving all of those lives is letting Big Pharma be the hero, who cares? Let him be the hero. Save the lives. If they used a fraction of the money they used to give doctors kickbacks for prescribing the meds, the possibilities would be endless. Orangutan, welcome. You almost missed us, guys. Yeah, we're not going to be here too much longer. But yes, if they use the money, and they have the resources, they have the expertise, they have marketing people, they have people who do research about consumer behavior and all of those things that help drive sales and help build business. They could apply those resources that they have toward stopping addictive behavior, stopping addiction. They could work for that. So, Orangutan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I do get kind of parched while I'm talking to you guys sometimes. To be clearer, I want to help addicts with the withdrawals in the ICU. The doctors just care about what brought you in the ICU, so it's frustrating. We are not creative. Doctors in ICUs, doctors are people just like everybody else, but aside from that, doctors are limited by hospital administrators who want things to turn over. There's a formula, and it's all based on money. That everything that if you go in for a procedure, if you go in for I don't know, a hip replacement, that there is a set amount of time that insurance companies will pay for that hospital stay for that type of surgery. And so doctors have to focus on turning you around, getting you out of there, and getting that bed to be making the next buck based on what the insurance company says. So the administrators look at what the insurance company is going to pay for, and then the administrator tells the doctor, okay, you got to make this surgery happen this fast and get this person out. It's wicked, but it's what we got. So the idle, if patients could get a try of subs in ICU, then just maybe after they are released, they might decide, hey, those subs as in substitute or subs as in Suboxone, those subs worked while I was in. So people who manage ICU, who manage the emergency rooms and all of that, they're going to look at that and project it out over time and think about, well, what's going to happen if that becomes a thing? How busy are we going to be just with that problem coming in and tying up all of our resources? I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's going to be a perspective that they're going to that they need to consider because they serve all kinds of people who come to them with urgent needs. Ivy League flight nurse, I can attest to that. I've been an ER flight nurse for 25 years, and I can tell you that everyone in the hospital is being told what to do. Healthcare is nothing more than a business transaction. That's right. It is, but there's also heart in it. There's heart, right? Right? Ivy League flight nurse. Clearly, you have a heart. You find frustration in some of those things, and I bet you're not alone. My stepdaughter is a nurse, and she's quite passionate about helping people, and I'm sure that there's tons of others, but not all of them. And as you get further into the administration and further into the the management roles, you're held more accountable to those things. So the idle Morris says there's a hospital in Maryland where they are really good in addiction medicine. I am proud of them. That's awesome. That is the hospital. Any hospital that gets to the point where they achieve that kind of status where they're considered really good at how did you say it? Addiction medicine? Any hospital that gets really good at that needs to be acknowledged, praised, and encouraged to help other hospitals adopt their model, their practices, whatever. Brenda says, I don't know where Johns Hopkins is located, but they're doing some mighty fine addiction medicine and research. I'm donating my brain to them when I die. Okay, that's noble and gloomy at the same time. Ivy League, I get it. 24 years here in open heart and ICU. Sometimes I get salty because I want what I want for my patients. Hmm. Of course. Of course you want what you want. Of course you want what's best for your patients. That's just a good. How can you not? You want things to go well for your patients. It's a human nature thing. So we had quite an odd start today, or an odd start to this evening, to this live event. It started very slow, and there were some odd data things going on here. So I'm happy that all you guys came and joined us, and it got to be a normal kind of thing again. I think that's great. So uh, appreciate you guys being here. I got to throw that out now and then because it's important that you guys know that. So I wanted to talk to you guys. It occurred to me when I was working out the whole spiel that I shared with you guys about recognizing the signs of an overdose at the beginning of this live event. While I was working out what to say for that, I also thought of this cartoon that we created on our channel that's about responding to an overdose. That's a little bit tongue in cheek and kind of I don't know. but it has some really useful information in it. It's called A Walk in the Park, and it is these two. It's a cartoon. It's a real cartoon that we made, and that was a lot of work. Wow. So I will find a link for it. Here we are. I may have told some of you guys about this before. I probably brought it up before, but here is the link to A Walk in the Park. It is a 6-minute long cartoon. These two guys, Cletus and the Wise Guy. These two guys, they're walking through the park and they find a guy overdosed. So here's the link for that. Cletus and the Wise Guy, A Walk in the Park. And it's about naloxone. So Ivy Lee says they started a peer recovery program in the ER at my job. It helped people get into recovery and prescribed 3 days worth of Suboxone. I stopped the program. They stopped the program when word got out and addicts flooded the ER. Yeah, that's a reasonable concern. If not that addicts are flooding the ER, but if it creates a circumstance where a sudden influx of patients restricts the operation's ability to serve the other people that come to them, then that's a problem. Ivy, of course it had to be stopped. We addicts are such a pain to deal with. It really annoys me to no end when people put themselves above us junkies. Well, Brenda, I'm not sure what you're saying there, Brenda. I'm a little slow. I went to public schools and, so I'm not surprised that it was stopped if it led to an influx of people. That makes sense. It demonstrates that there's a demand, and it needs to be addressed in a way that works. And if it causes an emergency room to shut down, or it causes an emergency room to be unable to treat all the emergency patients, then that's a problem. But it doesn't really have anything to do with being junkies, I don't think. Still no Brad, still no Carla. Oh well. Maybe next time, because we will be back on Tuesday with a new story. A new story that I believe goes back to 2003. I believe that's what the next one's going to be. Ivy says, it breaks my heart to admit that those in healthcare can be some of the most judgmental people relating to addiction. Yes, we've seen that and heard about it in some of our stories, that there is a kind of stigma and prejudicial treatment based on someone being an addict, someone dealing with addiction, even someone in recovery. That there's still this kind of holier than thou attitude. It's terrible. So we've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. And I hope you guys are holding up all right. I'm trying to figure out where we are. There we are. Okay. Sorry, just stuff going on around here, nothing for you to be concerned about. So looking at the display here, we have 26 people in the group right now. Is there some of the some new folks? Is there some folks who might have some questions that you'd like to ask? Things you'd like to know about regarding our channel or about how to share your story or anything like that? I always like to put that out before we wrap things up. I wish you could be a fly in heaven, on a fly on the wall in heaven when the holier than thou types answer to Saint Peter. Yeah, it would be great to figure out something to do to confront some of those people. I can think of a doctor in Florida that I would love to confront. Hello, Cindy. Thank you for being here. Yeah, Cindy times it just right. Hello, Cindy. You've probably said it before, but how did your channel come to be? Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, that actually I'm gonna eventually put together some sort of video that answers that question. But Texas Pictures has been around since 2007. We started our YouTube channel in 2009. And most of that period, most of the work that we did was industrial production, training and safety videos and industrial business to business kind of promotion stuff. Not anything, uh, very little documentary kind of work. It's all been wonderful work. The industrial stuff has been great, and holy cow, in doing the industrial work, I have been all over the world on other people's money. So here's where I've been. Is that not cool? So over the first 12 years, 13 years, from 2009 to 2000 to near the end of 2022, our YouTube channel managed to accumulate about 1,600 subscribers. And then we started doing the fentanyl series. And everything changed. That the fentanyl series really took off. And so we've been able to do more and more of that, as well as doing more about addressing topics like human trafficking, addiction recovery, domestic violence. And we're looking at developing something about mental health. So now this is really living the dream for me. Doing stories that matter. That's such a big deal. Oh, Mr. Glenn coming for a Florida doc. Yeah. It could be. It looks like we might be back in Florida. Might be back in Pensacola. Near the end of August. I don't remember the exact date. I think 27th, 28th, somewhere around then. Yes, please do mental health. Here's the thing about mental health, Cindy. Mental health, it's really it, the idea about doing something about mental health is really kind of a roundabout way to do something that addresses suicide. The catch is we can't really use that word because it draws restrictions. And if we make stories that have restrictions on them, then they reach fewer people. And if they reach fewer people, then they have less value. And if they have less value, it might be better for our energy to go somewhere else. But if we focus on stories that are related to mental health, which is the issue that leads up to that S word, that's sort of a workaround, I think. That's our plan. So the idea is to create a series that we could call Reason to Live. We'll see. We'll see. We're working on it, and there's a challenge because of that word. There's a challenge to that. When you started the fentanyl series, was it targeted at employers and how to assist their staff, or more of people telling their stories of loved ones? Mostly loved one stories. Mostly making the general, mostly making the general public more aware of the crisis. The Idle Morris says YouTube is obnoxious with certain words. Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's true. But you also got to think about why. That YouTube is obnoxious about certain words because some people, probably no one in this group, but some people will lose their mind if they hear that word, or if they hear their son or daughter watching something on YouTube and hear that word, they'll freak out, or they'll sue, or they'll, so it's a rough spot for YouTube. I'm not saying they're handling it the right way, but it's a rough spot for them for sure. Cindy is bipolar. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing, Cindy. Do you feel like you're dealing with that all right? Do you feel like that you're able to find solutions that help you manage it, help you find the good life? Jones has good stuff. You like the title idea, Reason to Live? I like that a lot. I want to do the series just because I like the title. So, Cindy, how do I best support a friend who is bipolar? Most days, the best I can do is try to keep up with her. Awesome question, Brenda. Good job. I wish therapy was more accessible to people. Yes, it should be. And some elements of therapy that have value are more available. One of the values of therapy is just being listened to. I think that being listened to, having the chance to express, to share, to let it out is a big deal. And so some of that is available if you work toward that. In the course of doing that, you can find yourself in a situation that helps you deal with it, that gives you some of the same therapeutic benefits that counseling can. Like a lot of what happens in AA meetings and NA meetings and Al-Anon meetings, that there's talking about it kind of therapy that is out there. This is good therapy for me. And then there's this. Joan is right. I didn't really want to say, well, you got us. But I do think there's some therapy to this. There is for me. This is cool to me. I have a great time with this. Cindy says, I hate when I feel like people are just ignoring me, even though I may not be thinking rationally at the moment. Nobody likes feeling that people aren't paying attention. Nobody wants to feel ignored. Except maybe Diddy. So, my best advice from Ivy League flight nurse is to make sure the person's physically safe and to love them where they're at. Love them where they're at. Love them where they're at. In church, they say things like, hate the sin, love the sinner. Love the sinner. Love them where they're at. They may be in a different place tomorrow. You love them there. Has the screen gone black? Uh-oh. Sorry. I don't know. Is the screen gone black? I'm seeing it here. Cindy, I will thank. She's always asking me. She's always asking me if it's too much, and I reply, girl, you're not too much or too little. You are just how God made you for today. Makes me feel grounded. Brenda, perfect answer. We can be a handful sometimes. I like what people know. They are loved no matter what. Ivy League nurse says she can see me. Cindy, you have good insight. Yeah, Cindy, you do. All of you guys, it is awesome to me the way all of you guys contribute from the perspective you have in a way that supplements what everyone else contributes. It all just kind of comes together in this way cool kind of way. So, but here we are at the 90-minute mark, and it is about time to wrap it up, folks. I don't know what happened with the black screen. There's just been some weird stuff going on this live event off and on the whole time, it seems like. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And those of you who are here regularly, you know that I always like to stress how important it is for you guys to understand that we're here for you, and And the group is here for each other. You can you can see that in the exchange that I don't even need to be here. You guys can get together and do this. So it's really a beautiful thing here. I don't know what to tell you about the dog, but it's a beautiful thing here. And I want you guys to know you can always reach out to me. You can find me. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on our website. And you can comment on stories, and I'm happy to reply there. I am very much reachable. So it is time to wrap it up for now, but I always like to share with you this thing right here, and that is our email, info@texas-pictures.com. You're also welcome to email me at glenn@texas-pictures.com. Eventually, I'm going to update this graphic. Is Glenn back? What? Cindy, I don't understand the question. Anyway, so you guys are welcome to email me, info@texas-pictures.com. I will all the emails come to me. You can also find me on Facebook, and you can visit our website at texas-pictures.com. And on our website, you'll find more information about sharing a story, about how storytelling summits work. And you'll also find our mailing address and our phone number and a link to our merchandise store. So thank you all for joining us. And we will see you again on Tuesday evening. Good night, folks.